guys, welcome back to my kitchen. I am going to spend some time today. It is Sunday evening, and that means that I am going to kind of prep some stuff for the rest of my week. Here's the deal though, I am starting with like kind of in a deficit. My kitchen is kind of a disaster right now. So the first thing that I need to do is get that under control, and quite frankly, it drives me nuts when that happens. So I'm going to do some cleaning. I think a lot of times I've had so many people like message me or make comments, and this like goes for like in my real life too, about how clean our house is all the time. And it's just not like, I can't even tell you. I think I just hone in and see the problems maybe where other people don't. I don't know. But my house is definitely not always clean. What might be right behind me is clean, but oh my goodness, anything over there and over there is not. So I am going to have to do like a bunch of dishes. And then today I need to get a chicken roasted, like a whole chicken. So I'm going to get that in the oven, actually maybe even before I get started on cleaning, because that needs to be cooking for our dinner tonight. But more importantly, I need to make a batch of chicken stock because I'm doing a bunch of tamales this week, and I need the chicken stock to make the masa. So I need to make chicken stock, and then any chicken that we have left after dinner tonight is going to get mixed with just a bottle of barbecue sauce and put on buns and wrapped up for my husband's lunches this week. So I'm going to get started on that, and then I am also probably going to work on some muffins or something for breakfast this week. We have a trip coming up in 12 days, I think is when we leave. And so we just have a lot that we need to do to kind of get ready for that. And then we are selling tamales. We make, my kids and I make and sell tamales a couple times a year, just around Christmas. Plus, we like to eat them, so we like to make enough for that. So I'm going to get started on that stuff, and I'm going to bring you guys along with me to show you kind of how I do some basic meal prep stuff on Sunday evening, just to make my life easier for the rest of the week. I have my oven preheating at 350, and I have a whole chicken that I got from a farm locally, which is why it doesn't have any like stickers on it or anything. And I am just going to, this was in my freezer, I'm going to just cut this guy out. It does not have any of the innards inside. If it did, I would pull those out. I'm not going to cook that in with the actual bird. But I am going to cook this breast and leg side up, just like that. Ooh, that's a mess, and it's super gross. I'm not super concerned right now about my hands being gross because I gotta get in this chicken now. So the next thing that I'm gonna do, I have some butter here. I actually made a huge mess trying to soften butter in front of our fireplace this morning, so I'm probably gonna have to clean that up too. And I'm going to use this whole, this is not a full pound anymore because I melted like half of it. So I'm gonna use, this is basically a stick of butter, and I am going to, just with my hands, go underneath the skin of the breast and just kind of break the little, I don't know what those are called, sinews apart, just so that I can get an opening in there. And I want to get my butter underneath. There's like a thing that runs across the middle that you can't really get through. So there's two compartments, and I'm gonna stick a good amount of butter in each one. This works best with butter that's not super warm. Otherwise I mean, it's kind of going everywhere right now, but otherwise it really does just run everywhere, and it's really gross. Not that this isn't kind of gross looking. Sometimes I'll do like a compound butter, where I will flavor it before I put it in there, but this is salted butter, so it's fine. Once I get it in there, I'm just gonna kind of push all over. I want some on the legs too, so that it goes all the way down to the bottom. And then I'll take some more and put it in on the other side. And since I've been touching this butter with my chicken hands, I'm gonna make sure and just use all of it, because I would not want to put this butter like in my butter dish and use it for like toast or something. Okay, my hands are thoroughly washed with soap and dried. So now I'm going to throw on the top of this. Now the butter is salted, but it's still not enough salt, I don't think anyway. So I am going to pretty heavily salt, including the inside and inside. And then I'm gonna do garlic powder. Now I have found, since I'm making this out, I'm making stock out of this, I want this chicken to go ahead and have a lot of flavor, because that's gonna help my stock have, I mean, even if I weren't, I would still want it to have a lot of flavor, but especially because of that, I wanna be really cognizant about what flavors I am putting on here, because I wouldn't wanna put something on this chicken or in this chicken right now that I don't want that flavor in my stock. So I normally wouldn't roast a chicken with like lemon, because I don't want that lemon in my stock unless I'm specifically making like a lemon pepper chicken bone broth. So I'm gonna cover this, stick it in a preheated 350 degree oven, probably for a couple hours, until it is nice and brown and crispy on the outside and juicy and finished cooking all the way through on the inside. So now I just have to get all of our big pots and pans washed. And then I also remembered that I put five roasts in the crock pot and the Instant Pot last night, because we are out of, I did not think that this would ever happen, but we are out of we are out of shredded beef that I had canned. So we probably had 50 quart-sized jars of shredded beef that I had just cooked up a bunch of roasts that we had gotten on sale, and shredded them up and canned them with some beef broth. And we have gone through that. It was like the easiest just grab and go meal. We had tacos, or we would have that with like mashed potatoes and gravy, or we would have it like on sandwiches, and we ate it so much. So I grabbed 5 roasts that I had in my freezer. I figured we would get more use out of them as jarred than we were getting out of the freezer. So I needed to get those cooked. So I got those cooked last night, but that means that now I have 5 full roasts that need to be shredded. So I'm going to do the dishes and then get started on that. I ended up needing to go lay down, so I did not get my meat shredded, so I think that I'm gonna have Bird and the kids help me with that this evening, and we will do like a big meat shredding party. Doesn't that sound fun? So we're gonna get that done here in a little bit, but in the meantime I need to get some muffin batter done. So I don't know if you've seen this online or not, but I've been seeing a lot of people where they will make muffin batter, and instead of going ahead and baking them and then freezing the muffins, they will freeze the batter in the these things with the liners. Freeze them for a few hours until they are completely frozen solid, and then they'll take them out and put them in a Ziploc bag to store them in the freezer. And then you just pull out as many muffins as you want, and you just add a minute or two onto your baking time to make sure that they're cooked all the way through if you pull them directly out of the oven. So I'm going to do some lemon muffins and I think some pumpkin muffins today. So I'm going to get started on that. I'm going to pull everything out that I need for the lemon muffins. The first thing though that the recipe calls for is a half a cup of buttermilk, and I am out of buttermilk, but what I do have is regular milk and vinegar. So I'm going to do almost a half a cup of milk, and then to that I'm going to add about a half a tablespoon of just plain white vinegar and let that set while I'm doing the rest of the recipe. And then that's going to give me the same like effect that buttermilk would have in my recipe. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to put everything together, and I will show you guys the recipe as I do it. Okay, so I'm starting with 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar in my bowl, and then I'm going to add 1 stick of melted butter to that. Huh? Is it calories hard? Oh, I don't know. You'll have to look at it, okay? I did go ahead and brown my butter a little bit. I don't know, it just tastes better, so give that a little bit of a mix. I think I might actually need like a whisk. Then to that, I'm going to add 2 eggs. And I'm just going to give this a good mix until my wet ingredients are just kind of all in there together. I'm not trying to like cream this up or anything necessarily, just giving it a good mix. You'll notice I'm not even using an electric, either hand or actual like stand mixer. And then to that, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of lemon extract. There we go. I'm going to add in, ooh, that already smells really good, the zest of a couple of lemons. Now, I did just realize that I probably could have, because I'm not actually adding any juice of the lemon. I don't need any extra liquid in this recipe, but I probably could have just added the lemon juice and regular milk, and not added the not added buttermilk and not added the vinegar to the milk to make like a buttermilk, but that's all right. Here's one. Now I will throw these lemons in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer because I'm not using any of the juice right now, but there's no way I'm going to just toss this lemon. It wouldn't stay good on the countertop very long without that zest, so I'm going to throw it in the freezer, and then I will save that for the next time I need lemon juice for something. Doing that. Or I don't know if you can tell or not, but that is kind of congealed up. Blah, 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 blah. Add in my buttermilk. And then I saw, I think it was Venison for Dinner did this on a recipe that she was making. And I thought, why have I not ever done that before? So I am going to do what she did, and I am going to add in, instead of getting another bowl dirty, I'm going to add my flour in, and then I need baking soda, baking powder, and salt. I'm going to add that on top of the flour, and then just kind of mix that in with my hands a little bit before I combine the dry and the wet ingredients. So I have that in a nice little mound, and on top of that I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and then 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay. And then just with my fingers, I'm just going to kind of mix that in to my flour, make sure I don't have any lumps in it. Just like that. That's so great. I love that. And then I'm just going to mix this all together just until you don't have any dry flour anymore. These are going to be so nice because we're in December, so our weather is getting a little chillier in Oklahoma. It is, we're going to be like in the 40s and 50s this week, and I love lemon in the winter. Well, lemon is actually in season in the winter, which is great because it just adds like some sunshine. I don't know, I just really, really like it. Okay, so that is that simple, how quickly that came together. So now I am going to set all of this stuff aside. And I'm going to line this one's silicone, but you can use whatever kind of cupcake liners, whatever kind of cupcake pan you have, or muffin pan. I'm going to line these and I'm going to fill them up. So I'm just going to use an ice cream scoop and do about an ice cream scoop's worth of batter. It's a nice thick muffin batter. I like that. The bad part is when it's a pretty thick batter like this, if you don't get it right the first time and you have extra, it's a lot harder to like spread it out. Okay, that's good enough for me. So I'm actually just gonna take this just like this and put this directly into my deep freeze and let it stay there probably honestly overnight. And then in the morning I will take all of them out, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then whatever day I want to do muffins for breakfast, I will pull out however many we need. We'll probably use 6 for one breakfast. So we'll serve that with that glaze and with eggs, and that is one breakfast that I'm not going to have to actually get up in the morning and deal with. So I have my lemon muffins in the freezer, and I'm going to get started on a batch of pumpkin muffins. I think I've shown this recipe before. I'm actually going to cut it in half because I don't need like 3 dozen muffins for this week. So the recipe that I'm going to talk about right now and show is a half recipe, and you're going to get about 18 muffins out of it. Or you can do like 6 big muffins. If you have a muffin tin, you can do like 6 of those and then 6 like cupcake size. Either one is fine. But I'm going to start out with 1/3 of a cup of butter. And this butter is softened. It has been sitting out on my counter all day long. We started getting Easter eggs. We have, I think, 6 chickens that were supposed to be Easter eggers. And we thought that they had all been laying for like months. And they were all laying eggs that were like a light brown color, which were the same color as our Rhode Island Reds were laying. And then just all of a sudden, 4 days ago, I guess, we started getting these, and it's like the most exciting thing. So I'm going to cream my butter. The egg doesn't really matter, but it's exciting. So I'm going to cream my butter, and then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of, I have my recipe book down here, 1.5 cups of sugar to that. Once that kind of creams together, I'm going to add 2 eggs. That looks great, so I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of water. And then normally if I were making this whole recipe, then I would do a whole can of pumpkin puree. This is not pumpkin pie filling, this is pumpkin puree. I would add a whole can, but I am doing a half recipe. So I'm going to add half of a can of this, and the other half will go in a Ziploc bag, and I'll throw that in the freezer. And then the next time I want to make these muffins again, I'll just pull that out of the freezer. You'll notice that I'm not being like super precise about this. I know that baking is a science and blah blah blah, but I kind of have made this enough that I just know what it's supposed to look like as I'm going. So I'm not super concerned about it being perfect quantities because I've made it enough times. I know what it's supposed to look like. So okay, now, because if I were to just turn this on, it's going to slosh everywhere. So I'm going to pulse it, which means I'm just going to turn it on and off and on and off and on and off, just until the water especially gets kind of incorporated in there. That's just going to make it not make a huge mess. Then I'm going to mix that all together. While this is mixing, I'm going to start getting my dry ingredients together. And there are quite a few because we have quite a few spices in this recipe. So I am going to go ahead and use a separate bowl for my dry ingredients for this recipe. There we go. So I'm going to start out with, I'm doing the math in my head as I go, 1 3/4 cup flour. To that, I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, Now we're going to do our spices, which are going to be a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then a half a teaspoon each of cloves and nutmeg. Okay, so that is our dry ingredients, and I'm going to just go scooch over. And I'm going to add my dry ingredients to my wet ingredients and blend it together until there's no dry flour anymore. And that is it. So my pumpkin muffin batter is done. And this will be another breakfast or two for our family this week. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with this. I'm going to put it in the muffin tins and then stick it in the freezer. So because I did not get to shredding this beef on my own, I decided to enlist the help of everyone else. So we have 5 roasts and 5 people. It should not take us too terribly long. And any of the liquid that is left, I'm going to stick in a couple of jars and put it in the refrigerator and use that as my beef broth for when I am going to make the tamales later this week. Okay, chicken is done. It looks beautiful. So I'm going to actually keep this covered and let this set and cool, because if we tried to actually pull anything off of the bone right now, our fingers would melt off. So we're gonna finish up. We shredded all of the beef. We got all of that done. It was 5 roasts, and it was a big Tupperware bowl, pretty close to full. We're gonna finish making our dinner. Once we get all of this shredded, once we get all of the meat off of the bone for the chicken, I am going to get the bones in the Instant Pot to make some chicken bone broth. And tomorrow I will can that up. But that is it for tonight. We will, whatever meat we have left over here, I will mix it with just a bottle of probably Sweet Baby Ray's. I think that's the barbecue sauce that we have. And put it on some buns, wrap those up, and that'll be my husband's lunch. But we have some lunches for him that will be ready, a bunch of meat ready to go to make tamales for us to sell and also eat for dinner one day this week, and chicken for dinner tonight. So that is it for this time. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.